Present.
Kevin Charette,
Here.
Kate Cook, Counselor Kate Cook,
Here.
Peter Solomsich.
Here.
Great. We had a very good discussion last week, presented with the options from the coalition that, no, we can't really go live in the fall. We can have the option of next April or this June. And we weighed all of the pros and cons of that. And obviously, we'd like to get the benefits of community power to our residents as soon as we can. The challenge is, can we keep the public engaged? And as Allison said, will there be a perception that the city is doing this without the public's support? And we talked about that, and I think we identified the public hearings, the additional publicity around Wave 1 communities around us that are happening, that's going to be filling the newspapers and social media with what's happening on the first towns up to go. And we also, Kevin pointed out, we've got a lot of publicity that will happen once the rollout starts, once the notifications start. There's a whole program that CPCNH has with Clean Energy New Hampshire, which would be pretty extensive, leading up to the mailings into people's mailboxes, notifying them. So I just thought I would ask us to, if we're still in agreement that June is the best way to go, I think we should memorialize that with a vote, because it's going to take a lot of staff support, and they want to know that we're fully ready to go to commit to that. So I did a sample motion. It's also, I went back and looked at the motion that we last took to the council, which was that the city council authorized the Portsmouth Energy Advisory Committee to create an energy aggregation plan, including 2 public hearings for review and vote of the council. So that's our near-term scope of work. And I think our discussion last week was as if we were going to lead the whole push to do the whole community power ourselves. It's going to break into parts, and the first part is the aggregation plan, and then it's the council's decision to enter into the contracts with CPCNH to move the next step. So, you know, how do you eat an elephant? You do it in small bites. I think our first bite is to complete the draft energy plan, but in a timeline that would allow us to stay on course for June. Kevin?
Just maybe one piece of additional language would be to also submit it to the PUC.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
On an expedited schedule.
Right.
Since I missed the discussion last week, and I apologize for missing the meeting, I tried.
You did try, and you were locked out by us.
I know. I think because I didn't pre-register, I'm pretty sure that's why. But I was thinking that the fact that we can't launch in the fall isn't like a total surprise. So I was thinking it wasn't like brand new information. We thought it was going to be kind of questionable whether the fall was a possibility. So the benefits of sort of watching everyone go through what they're going to go through and doing the like longer term education, I mean, was there a discussion like we're comfortable with this pretty accelerated schedule, and we don't now we have a month or 2 of learning as opposed to 6 months to 8 months, that everybody's comfortable with speeding that up? I guess I would imagine that was discussed, and
Yeah.
if everybody's come to that agreement, I can see both ways. I guess I just missed that discussion.
Yeah. Just let me, Kevin, I think you were voicing the concern that how do we keep the public engaged if we do go to next spring? Because all the activity falls off and we go dormant over the summer. And then we'd have to pick it up. Yeah. Start it all.
Because our plan, Tom, all along was the schedule that we've been working under, and it's been revved a few times, but was to complete the AAP, to hold our hearings, and to submit it in the first quarter of this year. That was the schedule we were on regardless. So if you think about all that kind of education that takes place and PR, et cetera, that happens during that time frame, if we're not, it's one thing to wait till the fall. We could kind of keep things alive to the fall, but if it's not to the spring of April of 2024, that's another 16 months out.
Right.
So we're going to have this kind of wave of activity right now that was the schedule that we were on, and then essentially we'd be having to keep things,
Right.
somewhat alive for the next 16 months.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
And as far as to the council, you're comfortable that this isn't, because the timeline for council approval is now sped up considerably, correct?
Yes. But I think if you look at Kevin's timeline, we would go to them on the meeting of the 21st.
Oh, is it the 21st? I had the City Council Community Power Work Session on February 13th.
Correct.
Did that change?
No, that stays.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then the vote would be the
The
21st.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we talked through that as a council Monday night. All the good stuff happens late at night.
When everybody turned off the TV.
Right. But I think there's a comfort level with it.
Okay, good.
And again, our job is to get the EAP done,
Right.
and then, so that everything's in place for the council.
just one thing, Counselor, just for Peter and Tom's, is for the schedule, the process allows us to submit the EAP after the second hearing. That's what we've been told by CPC&H, by both
Yeah.
Clifton and Samuel Golding last week. So that would be prior to the council vote, because those 2 weeks were kind of critical if you kind of lay out the critical path timeline here to allow us to be live for June 1st. If we waited to after the council meeting on the 21st to submit it to the PUC, because that starts a 60-day approval clock
Yeah.
with the PUC. If you just go through all of the calendar here, we'd be implementing more like the middle of June, and then we wouldn't have full enrollment to the middle of July, and then rates change again August 1st.
Right.
The default service changes. So we'd be going live with some number of, half the residents in the town would be going live in July, and we'd be turning around, changing the rates. So there's some beauty to having the full month of June to get everybody enrolled.
Right.
They're stable in July, and then rates change again in June. It adds a little bit of a communication challenge, even because we're even that close to the rate changing again. But by submitting the EAP in it, say around February 11th, after the second hearing, those 2 weeks we pick up are kind of important.
And to that, Peter, I know you want
It's
to
okay. Go
speak, but I did, with Henry's help, go to the PUC rules, which say submission of electric aggregation plans to the commission for review and approval. Every electric aggregation plan and any revision of a plan to include an opt-out default service shall be submitted to the commission either before or after being submitted to the governing body. So they very clearly wanted to do this, put this language in, to determine whether the plan conforms to the requirements of RSA 53E. So it's more that they're judging, have you met the criteria of the statute? They're not, they don't, it's our right by law to implement this. All they can do is make sure that we're, in accordance with the statute.
And they may not take the full 60 days. They have with the first wave of plans, because they're all kind of the first time around. But with now additional towns coming online, they may not take the full 60 days, and that would be to our benefit. But
Yeah.
we have to kind of plan on they will. So.
I one clarification to what you were saying. Will the CPCNH rates also change August 1st?
Yes.
Or, no, okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, so that, at least for the foreseeable future, the plan is that the rates will adjust on the same schedule as default service. They'll know, once they know what the default service rate is, then their plan is to beat it.
Right.
okay.
Right. Yeah, and when we had Samuel Golding with us by Zoom, we probed on that, and he basically said he has high confidence that we'll continue to beat the default rate. Because Kevin said, if you hung us out to dry with higher rates than the default rate in August, we'd really have a PR disaster.
Yeah, if we went live in June and turned around and raised the rate above default service August 1st,
Yeah.
That wouldn't be good.
we'd be in a heap of trouble. So.
Peter?
Yeah, so I wasn't here last time. I was at the Offshore Wind Commission meeting from BOEM. So I missed all the discussion, but now that we have only two options, either June or next April, I gotta say, I'm a little bit nervous about June being something we can actually do. Because I really don't, I really want to avoid anything that would cause a lot of confusion to people, because we rush things because we just have such a deadline. And I think, I don't know for sure, but how long really the PUC will take, or how long the first wave is going to kind of shake out issues that we don't know yet. But it seems to me that June is a very aggressive timeline. So if we want to go that way, I think we should have some kind of fail-safe breaker mechanism in place to say, if by a certain date we see something happening that might delay things, we shouldn't just force it. We should give this time. I don't think there's that much of a urgency as we might think. I think people are really excited that we're doing something, and that this is not something that's going away. It's a process. And actually, I think having more time to get people excited about might have to be positive. And we see what the first wave of municipalities have experienced and learned from that. And again, also the August deadline where rates change might be an issue too. You know, it's so close to June. So people sign up for one thing, and all of a sudden 2 months later things change. And that was always something that people were upset about with third-party suppliers, that the things changed so quickly and they couldn't keep up with it. So I'm a little worried about the fact that we might not be able to make it unless we expedite a lot of things that we should do faster than we're doing now. But if we decide June, I think then we need to have a fallback process to see if there are issues that are not being addressed or we are concerned about. And we shouldn't promise people that in Portsmouth that we're going to do it absolutely by June for that very reason. Then we should have a plan to say, okay, if we see there is issues and we're not confident with what we can deliver, then we will reserve the right to postpone.
I'll let
But-
Allison go, and then I have a few
Kevin,
things I just want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought last time we went through that, and he said that we would have up until April 12th, basically, before the,
Yeah, if we've stayed on this schedule,
Yep.
and there's kind of a late piece of information I wanted to share on this, that the schedule would be on April 12th. The Risk Committee would meet and would approve the procurement of power for Portsmouth. Okay, so that's that's, once the PUC approves the EAP, that within a day or so, the risk committee would meet for the CPCNH and authorize procurement of power for Portsmouth. And up to that point, Portsmouth would have the ability to pump the brakes and say, we want to wait. But I do want to just, and this just came out today, so just in the spirit of full disclosure here. So Clifton informed the board that today, we were supposed to have a board meeting tomorrow, that they originally had said April or May was the target for launch. And then because of the financial advantage to CPCNH to build up reserves and given the status of the market, they wanted to advance that as closer to April 1st. Their original discussion was that they were going to go live in April or May. So right now, the coordination with the utilities, in this case, he spiked out Liberty, hasn't provided all the data is necessary for Ascend to procure energy. It hasn't given all the customer data. And I think 4 or 5 of the initial towns are in Liberty service territory. They're still waiting on information from Liberty. They're going to get it, but it hasn't happened on the schedule they expect it. And there's also some issues with the other utilities as well, because, I mean, one of the issues with CPCNH in a small state, they're still having to interface with 4 different utilities to make this happen, and trying to keep everybody on the same schedule and get them responsive. So the story is, he thinks that the implementation right now, he's estimating a week. He said he thinks it could be 2 weeks, but for the Wave 1 communities, rather than it being April 1st, he thinks it's going to get delayed. He thinks at least a week, and he said potentially 2 weeks. So that's where he just came out today and informed the board members of that. And it's more administrative, working with the utilities to kind of get everything that's necessary to move forward. It's not that they're getting stiff-armed at all. It's more of just they're working on getting a lot accomplished with 4 different utilities. The co-op is a little less involved because that's more of an opt-in scenario. But so right now, he's saying the go-live could be the 2nd week of April or the middle of April.
Yeah.
So that date that Allison was just mentioning, around the 12th, that could be right around the time of launch. So they will have gone through the enrollment process, so we will have seen that the enrollment process went okay or not okay, but they would not have gone through a month of, say, metering and billing and, bill presentment and so forth. So that's...
Would the Seacoast communities in Eversource land
Yes.
stay on schedule?
No, everybody's...
It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not moving forward. They, next week, the risk committee was meeting to authorize the beginning of procurement for the Wave 1 communities, and for Ascend then to start to do their work. And that has been put on pause because they don't have everything buttoned up with the utilities yet.
Yeah. Peter, we had thought we'll be the fast follower and we'll watch April 1. But it's interesting that they're going to notify everybody, go through the notification in March as planned.
No,
No.
well, the notification will be synced up with whenever they're going to be going
Right.
live.
Okay.
So rather than the notification, say, starting March 1st, it may start March 7th or March, 14th.
That's
So-
to the residents, the notification?
Yeah, that's the opt-out,
Oh,
Tom,
okay.
the 30 days before
Okay.
they enroll, all the residents will get a notification informing them that they're going live in 30 days, and you have the ability to opt out, and here's how you can opt out.
Counselor?
I was just going to say, we can watch this process, though. We can go through and get the work done. We have to do it anyway, to launch whenever we launch, and watch the process. And then if we feel uncomfortable, April 5th, April 6th, we can put a pause on it.
Yeah, I think if we get our EAP to the council, we finish our public hearings, make any modifications to the plan that we want to, from those public hearings, if any, and then go to the council, that puts us in good shape.
Yeah, and as I've mentioned last week, I'm very plugged into the status, hearing about things, so as every day goes by and week goes by, if anything emerges that is giving us any agita, I will let you know in a millisecond.
And I think we just have to be careful
Yeah.
not to say in the community, it's got to be June,
Yeah, we're preparing for the potential.
Yeah.
And that's why, I think some of the language we tweaked a little bit in the PR, the press release, to not make it so definitive, we're.
Right.
Well, I bring this
Just
up.
to your,
Yes,
I
go
wanted to
ahead.
mention, it's one thing to be going in June, but just a reminder, it does deliver the rate reduction to our residents 16 months in advance, right? And one of the reasons they were encouraging anybody who was ready to go, between now and June, was the ability to build up the financial reserves that are important to the stability of CPC&H and the community. So Portsmouth would forego that ability too. So there's a couple, there's the rate reduction for our residents, and then there's the ability to reserves was kind of factored into why would we even take this on to go early. Those are really the
Ben?
benefits.
Can you help me with the 16 months?
16 months.
If we go live in June or next April?
Right, well, it's 16 months from now. So no,
Oh,
it would
from
be,
now.
yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
10-month lag.
Yeah, right,
Right, yeah.
right.
Well, I bring this up also because I've heard a number of people now, residents who heard what we're doing, who are now saying, or who told me that, oh, I wanted to make some decision about, right now I'm on a default plan, but I know that you guys are coming live pretty soon, so I'm not going to make any decision. I'm waiting for you. So there's some expectations out there. And I think we need to be really careful about putting things out there that are not really sure that we can do it. Because I think the last thing we want to do is some people then finding out that, I could have done something, but I was waiting for Portsmouth Community Power, and you guys didn't do it on time. I was told it would be. I think it's always better to underpromise and overperform.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's going to hold it against us if we delay, but then we give them a better product or a smoother process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The other side of that is, if we really think we can make it by June, and this has advantages, like you said, Kevin, then we need to almost have a little bit more of an accelerated marketing campaign to get people on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? Because,
Yeah.
And to the months thing, I just want to mention, though, 16th was not right, but beginning in whenever the rates are announced, which could be as early as March 1st, by law, they have to do it 30 days before. So there'll be press in the area here of what the rate is for CPC&H for Rye and, Durham and Exeter, et cetera. So it'll be in the public sphere what the rate is for CPC&H 13 months before we would be going live.
I was just going to add to what you said, that with the maybe confusion or feel like it's rushed. I think for the general public, residents, it wouldn't be rushed at all, right? That we're having a hearing in a couple of weeks, and you're talking about June. I think for what has to happen between the PUC and the council, that's rushed because there's so much process involved. But I think when we start talking about it and then say it's in June, it seems like that's a fairly good lead time. So.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think you have people starting to understand, and then if they hear there's, even if it's a couple cents, why aren't we doing that?
Right.
Right.
Counselor?
I was going to say, this is a really good point. I was having this conversation with someone this morning about our capital budget. People come to the council saying, I need to have this road repair on my street. It goes into the capital budget, it goes through the process, which takes a long time. It takes almost 9 months just to go through the process to get it approved. But they don't realize, it's in the 5th year out from now. So they're thinking, oh, I'm going to get this improvement on my road. They're going to get it in 2030. But it takes sometimes that long to get it in the budget, to go through the process, 'cause there are all these other priority projects.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how long it actually takes for us to do things.
Well, I think, why don't we, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that the Energy Advisory Committee complete the draft energy aggregation plan and submit it to the PUC in February on a timeline that allows the city council to authorize a June launch of community power.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay.
And I think just, I mean, at any time, if we are uncomfortable, this level starts to rise. I mean, we have,
There's lots of off-ramps.
there's off-ramps, you know?
Yeah.
We should never feel that, ultimately, this is a good thing to do if we can get there, but if we feel the ability to get there is not well-planned and thoughtful and et cetera, we have the ability at any point to pump the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all very invested in this now after all the work we've done. And doing it right would be the most important thing. And if we see threats to that, we don't have to commit to these subsequent contracts, which are really the no turning back point. So we've got, there's slack between the council approval of the EAP in April, that we can watch what's happening in the other towns, see how the rollout's going, be confident, see how the power purchasing is going.
Yeah, and again, as Peter and Tom, we might have talked about it last week, but the cost-sharing agreement, and then there's a separate services agreement. That second one is what commits the our power aggregation to procuring power. So even approving the AEP, submitting the AEP does not commit Portsmouth to any financial obligation. Even signing the cost-sharing agreement doesn't. It's the second agreement that says we want to get these services from CPC&H, and right now it's the rate.
Right.
There, in the future, there might be other services, but until you sign that second agreement, that's the one that commits the city, the aggregation, not the city, financially. So the EAP doesn't do that.
For a term of 3 years?
It's a 3-year, yeah. And even if you do sign it, we'll get into that when we get into looking at those agreements. There's off-ramps.
Are there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's ways within the first year, and then at other points in time, and depending on what your reserve level is, there's off-ramps within the 3-year period. You know, if other cities were coming on that could take the load that they were planning to give to Portsmouth, then you could back out more easily. There's all sorts of off-ramps even within the 3-year agreement.
Thank you.
Can I ask, what's our status as far as legal review, our legal review of all the contracts?
Well, now that we have the EAP pretty much ready in draft form, we can give everything to legal, and I'll do that this week.
Okay.
But good question. I think that needs a good vetting. And we were actually thinking we'd take 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get the city attorney up to speed on it all, just so she understood it. I think that getting a motion passed on this was one of the two things I was hoping we could accomplish today. The second is being ready for next Thursday's hearing, which is coming right up. And you saw the slide deck that Henry will do. So we have our presentation ready. You got a preview of that. Thanks to Peter Britz and Kate Homet, we have the latest turn on the EAP with all of the changes from the Community Power Coalition, which is great. Thank you guys for that. That's,
Yeah, I think the only thing on that is that we need to accept all the changes in the document. So if anybody has any other changes before we do that, take a look, but I think we're pretty much there, with the exception of that table that we want to vet as best we can.
The mystery table.
Yeah.
Working on the table.
I don't know what happened. I guess I needed to send it to Eversource and it didn't happen, or did I send, I can't remember what happened. I know I sent it to the CPCNH people, but,
I'm running down details with Eversource.
right.
To the extent that we want to submit something before we're able to get specific resolution from Eversource, I think a minor wording change should suffice to move the document along,
Right.
while also providing the information that the Ascend folks need to do their preparation for portfolio management.
Yeah, okay, great.
The only thing I saw was just inserting the dates of the hearings.
In the EAP?
Yeah. I wish I could tell you what page it's on, but my iPad removes all the pages. It moves things to,
I think that's, is that in one of the appendices?
it's in the, it's like one of the early pages.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too far in.
Yeah.
Maybe like 1, 2, 3, 5 pages in, 6 pages in.
Okay, yeah. we
Yeah.
can find that.
And Henry's reviewed it, and
Yeah.
he's added all sorts of new
Yep.
language that conforms with the latest and greatest EAPs
Yeah.
that have been submitted.
I can read you his changes, there's 6 items, and, you know, then once it's public record by reading it here, I can send it to you, but, the customer data, certain edits are for the purpose of conforming the EAP to the coalition's adopted policies for energy portfolio risk management, retail rates, and financial reserves, page 2, 7 to 8. Then more current examples of the tiered rates. They've got an update to that. More current renewable portfolio standard charge. Page 27 includes language to allow that net metering customers can be enrolled in an opt-in basis if utilities have not adequately or timely complied with regulatory rules, such as to ensure community power programs can properly accommodate net metering customers. And lastly, 3 attachments to reflect progress to date. Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, how load-serving entity services will be implemented, and a customer data protection plan. These changes are not in red line, but rather I've replaced the entire attachment with the more current language reflecting the progress that's occurred. So it's not a very epic, I would say, in the level of changes and good hygiene. So that gives us an EAP that we can, in the posting for the public hearing, we can have that, a link to that, right?
Yep. We'll just have the PDF probably.
Yeah, that'd be super.
Yep.
And we're going to be here in Conference Room A, is that the latest?
Correct. 6:30, 6 o'clock.
Six
We
o-
went through that.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
So how does that work if a lot of people show up?
That's the best thing in the world.
Yeah. So it'd be here, in this room?
Yes, which holds 40-ish.
Okay.
We've set up chairs before
Yeah,
back here,
You can
if
have
needed.
chairs over, there's a stack of chairs over there.
Yeah.
good.
If you need it.
I think we max out at, what, maybe 50 in this room?
Okay.
40 is cozy.
40 is tight.
It's just given that the PR for this came out of the postcard that went to everybody, we may get a decent attendance, which wouldn't be a bad thing.
Which is great. Alice?
I had a question. There were a couple places in Henry's presentation where it has name Community Power, and I'm assuming he's going to put Portsmouth in there? Or did he just leave it as an example?
I've already
This
done
is-
that.
Oh, okay.
So, and thank you to Kevin for proofreading, because there are a lot of those, and I
Okay.
missed a couple still.
Okay.
Thank you to
But-
you for, you did 99% was perfect.
We had a couple of questions from Henry that I was waiting to incorporate before I send you all the final version, but as soon as we get those, they weren't very substantive, I don't remember what they were, but I'll get those all out. And the other thing, in the interest of our time crunch here, so far we have 283 replies to the survey. And the press release about it and the hearings just was approved and went out today, so that'll give us another bump, and it's in the newsletter.
Thank you for the press release, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
In your article, too.
yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
the op-ed was good.
free
today.
and friendly publicity.
Do it while it's still around.
While it's still around.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're up over 400 responses when it settles.
By the hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which would be,
Yeah.
that's a big number.
Right. So
Will we present that data at the hearing?
it'd be fun to present that data.
I would think so.
I'm envisioning introduction, Henry does what is community power, maybe then we do survey data, and then we get public input.
To that end, I will circulate the latest report. If you, or Chairman, as you designate, if somebody would decide what you want on slides, so I can create a PowerPoint that we can segue to from Henry's.
Okay, I'll work with you on that. I put a note into the email to the city attorney. I don't think we have to use council rules, council public hearing rules, which would mean we can have more give and take. So I'm just getting parameters for a non-council public hearing run by one of the city committees. I think we have a lot more flexibility.
We'll need that red light though, right, to limit them?
Well, if we have 40 people, you know, we might have to do a 2-minute limit or something. We'll see. I think the 9th will be the larger audience, because we've teased that date in the postcard. And
Oh, is that what it is, the PR? The press release says the 2nd, and the postcard says the
The
9th?
press release says the 2nd and the 9th. The
Yeah.
postcard said, please complete the survey by the 9th, not pegged to the survey, not pegged to the hearing. Then when you complete the survey, it says, please complete it by February 1st. The first hearing is February 2nd at 6 o'clock.
Oh,
So
okay.
we
So we
didn't
updated
say
the-
in the postcard that we had a hearing on either. We said we were having a hearing, but not with the date.
so 280 people know that there's something on the 2nd. That's good.
It's good.
Just, what if this room couldn't accommodate the number of people that show up, what happens then?
I throw myself on the expertise of staff.
I'm just looking to see what else
The-
might be
the
in here.
Sustainability Committee's in the school board conference room.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in the council chambers.
Is there,
Is it-
does Tuesday have something with the Sherburne
right?
School?
Oh, the Sherburne School meeting.
That's
Yeah.
next, that's the 31st.
That's the 31st, it's on
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Um,
Thursday the
Because I
2nd.
would just hate not to be able to accommodate a larger crowd if
Yeah.
it were
What
to
is in
happen.
there on Wednesday?
Although, it never hurts in politics and government to say,
Wow.
it's so popular,
Yeah.
that there's barely standing room, but
There
maybe
you
we
go.
can get you
Overflow.
in.
Put people in the middle here.
Yeah, that's true at a conference
So
too.
I'm
If people are
looking-
coming out into the hall and everybody wants to get in, like, what's in there?
Yeah, right.
And the other thing, while I'm trying to get it to tell me what we might have that day, because we have a Zoom connection, we could set up a Zoom in one of the other rooms that can do Zoom. I'm not sure where those are.
Or
other
even out
ones.
in the lobby. Yeah.
So on February 2nd, it doesn't look like anyone's in the big room.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything either.
Oh.
So that's,
Yeah, it looks like we could use the council chambers.
if we, I will ask Valerie French in the clerk's office to put a pencil in hold on
Okay.
chambers. Because I think if we have 10 people, being in there would not be a
Yeah.
good optics.
No.
But
Right.
if we have 50 in here, then we can move in there.
That's great, then we can say, this is so popular, we're going to move to the council chamber.
Right.
That's a good outcome.
They have us in the council chambers for the night,
For the night?
The 9th.
The 9th is?
at least online. The posting is that City Hall council chambers.
Okay.
Can we have
February
Eversource
9th.
without Kevin
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
in the council chambers?
Well, I'd let
That's
him
at
know.
6:30,
Probably
not 6.
That's strange. I will talk to Valerie about that. She may have changed that or whatever. Oh,
There's another meeting in here.
On
she
the
must
9th?
have moved us into
Oh.
there.
Okay.
So we can hope we have lots of people.
Fine.
I'm just wondering if there'd be an opportunity for any of the committee members to speak at this. Well, we got Henry, and we got survey. Maybe one of you guys would like to do survey? And I'll do the intro to tee us off at the beginning, but Allison, since you were the survey author.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
fine.
I think it might be nice to introduce Kevin as our representative to CPN.
Yes, and now the slides have your picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that you're,
How long is this hearing? 1 hour?
I think
I don't think there's this time limit.
there's no time.
No.
Well, what time limit do we want?
Yeah.
Well, I think that, as much as I want everybody to participate, I think that if people start straggling in before 7 o'clock and expect, us to rehash the whole thing, that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate.
Right. Right.
How long's the Henry's presentation? Do we know?
I have it
20, 30-something slides.
Yeah.
It's long, yeah, I know that.
It'll take him a bit to get through that.
Yeah.
And we don't want to rush him.
Half an hour, probably?
He knows he's presenting.
Yes,
Yeah.
And he will be presenting on February 9th as well?
and the 13th to the council.
Okay,
That's
The
good.
work session.
okay.
And he has a nice demeanor about this, and it's at a level that we all can understand. He doesn't get down into
Did any of
the
you,
science project.
well, to that end, I know Peter Rice gave feedback. Did any of you think that some of the slides were too complicated?
For the hearing deck?
That's what went out
Yeah.
in today's packet, right?
Right.
The hearing done.
I don't know if there's anything in there that was too,
EAPs gets into pretty good detail.
I mean, it's text, but there's not a lot of.
Yeah.
The deck that's for the Wave 1 communities that ultimately I think you would share with the council does have some slides that get a little heavy.
Okay.
Graphs and charts and whatnot, but I don't think there's much in the hearing deck
Right.
that's, I don't think he'll go through it line by line, but he'll,
I would say that visually, when there's the in-depth part, it's hard to look at,
you know.
Because there's so much text? Yeah.
because there's a
fair.
lot going on.
Yeah.
He's done this a whole bunch of times, so I'm sure he has a delivery that's not
So,
grueling, is my guess.
that slide that I see still
Yeah.
has
Name,
the name.
community? Yeah.
That's a bit overpowering.
Yeah. It's almost a summary of what he had already talked about, so it's probably a concluding slide, just so it's a visual.
Well, 30 slides is a lot.
So it's,
I mean, if you can make it in
26.
30 minutes, you're lucky, but it might be better to have 20 so he has more time to explain them.
Okay, I can give him that feedback.
Yeah, or just agree on how much time we want
Yeah.
allotted.
He's used, this is the standard hearing deck he's used across the state,
Yep.
Yeah.
so
He probably knows how long it takes him.
Yeah.
Yes,
And he
that's
might-
right.
Get that
He might have
information.
shortcuts he can take and then
Yeah.
go back if he has questions.
I think that you just assume that people want more information and that they're going to understand the information presented. And if they don't, they will ask questions. I think it's really important to present them with as much material as possible.
Right. Yeah, that one is a little daunting.
I don't know, I
like
like
this
the
one.
visual on it.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
basically, as Kevin said, it's a summary of everything that he
Gives you-
spoke about
Yeah,
up
it's
until
kind
that
of just
point.
a concluding picture of it.
Sorry.
I mean, he's very accommodating, so if you tell him, Counselor, how much time you want, max you want to use, he'll
Yeah.
make it happen.
Let's say 20 minutes, which will really be 25. See?
Yeah, 20 might be light.
Yeah, all right.
How many slides are there?
26.
Why don't we just plan on having about an hour and a half so that we have 45 minutes or more for presentation and discussion, and then we have, another 45 minutes for public comment or
Right,
questions.
right, right. And depending on what the city attorney says, I think if we have Henry's expertise there and Kevin's expertise, if we can, everything we can answer on the spot would be great.
Our objective is just public education.
And things that we might want to change in the EAP. We're listening to what the public wants out of this program.
Okay.
And that's why I think the survey tees up, this is what you've told us you want. And that gives us a track to go down, I think, in the discussion.
Yeah, I'd frame it that we as a committee would take what we hear and see if anything in the plan needs to change, not so much that we're giving the public, we're not asking them necessarily to edit or alter the plan per se, because they're not even going to have seen it. But it's based upon the nature of the feedback that we get and the questions.
Right.
We would make a decision whether there's any tweaking to the plan that needs to be made. That's my thinking.
I don't disagree, but just to clarify, I think we're going to put it on the page for the meeting.
Yep.
And the slideshow too, I imagine, right? So they'll have a chance, if people want to really dig in, they'll have a
Yeah.
chance. For a
Yep.
few days. We won't have it up too early, probably have it up
Yep.
Tuesday or, I don't know. Whenever we
Yep.
complete the EAP, we'll put it up there.
Yeah. But if they're asking questions that work out, yeah, that is confusing in the plan. We would, I think,
Yeah.
edit the plan,
Sure. Yeah.
But,
Great. Other thoughts for the good of that effort?
and it's public education in that at least to get to the point where you can submit the plan. I mean, the thought is there's going to be a lot more public education, but just to submit a plan, not committing that you're going to implement, but just to submit a plan, you have to have at least 2 hearings, right? So I don't think it's meant to be the end-all in public education, but you're at least, notifying the public in some detail before you submit a plan.
Can we do something on social media as we get closer?
Of course.
Yeah. With just the notice about the hearing, and here's the link to the,
So the newsletter goes out on Facebook to the Portsmouth page, the City Hall page, obviously, and unofficial Portsmouth. So that's out there, the information about the survey and the 2 hearings, because that release was approved today, that's in today's newsletter. But then I can pull that piece out and just reiterate that on all of our the relevant social media channels. And we could create a Facebook event for it. I'm not sure how much, the City Hall Facebook page, because it's push only, we don't take comments. I'm not sure how much an event created by City Hall would really do for us, that having it on the city calendar doesn't do,
Right.
but putting the blurb out should give us some
I
traction.
saw the survey was in the newsletter today, right? Had it been in prior to today, or today was the first?
Today was the first because the press release was
Yeah.
approved.
So that'll,
Yeah, that should bump
Give us another way.
responses.
Yeah, I don't think we need a Facebook event, maybe for the 9th, if we think that's going to be big.
and even the survey results, I mean, for the meeting itself, maybe 3 or 4 slides, maybe then after the fact, we could put a little more of an in-depth presentation together that push out,
That'd be fun.
but,
yeah.
you know, so you don't feel you're giving like you have to go over 12 slides or something.
Right.
Maybe, based upon the nature of the survey, we kind of call out
Just the highlights.
3 or 4 of the
Right.
questions that were particularly interesting.
And our deadline for responses is February 1st. Do we still want to turn off the survey on February 1st? Or
No, I'd
is it
keep it.
worth keeping it
I'd keep it going.
till the 8th, or, if the next, for the next hearing is the 9th?
And we're capturing emails on that, right?
Correct.
So we could also send survey results
Right,
on the 8th.
as well as reminding people for the 2nd that this hearing is taking place.
Right. That'd be a fun way to re-engage the survey takers. Give them the
Yeah.
results.
Even the people that come to the 9th on the hearing, they may have come to the hearing through one of the other communications, not because they saw the survey.
Right,
So you'd maybe keep it live for a few more days, so you can let folks know, hey, if you haven't completed the survey yet, to the people that come to the 9th, you keep it live for a couple more days if they want to give them an opportunity to complete it. More the merrier.
Yeah.
and then the MailChimp lets us export the full report in a PDF, which we can post on our page. People want to see all of the comments, all of that.
Right.
Have to take out the
And we'll
emails.
certainly do that at the February 13th council work session. Recap it.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
My guess is there probably is not a community in the state that's had a survey with that type of volume of feedback.
Probably true.
I'm just guessing, but.
Counselor,
Yeah, come in.
you going to hit the snack cabinet?
Secret city council snack cabinet.
So do you want to officially adjourn and get to your next?
Yes, unless we've got other business. Just in your deck, in your packet today, I also put in a PDF of what the seacoast towns in the first wave are doing.
Right.
So that gives you a sense of,
That Excel spreadsheet?
yeah, that gives you a sense of, as these towns get, a couple weeks out from the notification letters, there's a whole nother wave. They're having info sessions, they're having op-eds.
And they're working together, so they've created 3 different, regional communication teams. So the Seacoast is a team, and they got together, brainstormed around their communications, and people are doing different things. So I would think we'll be able to kind of piggyback on that if and when.
Well, that link that I sent out, that it was being put on by, I think it was the Seacoast group, and it was basically an overview of community power again. And I didn't know whether that was something that we wanted to include on our page or anything like that, just so people could go and see it.
Right.
I mean, I think Henry's presenting again.
Yeah, right.
And there's a whole new set of FAQs that, in the near term, we could rev our FAQs to the latest and greatest that were developed for the Wave 1 communities. There's a lot more than we have already on our site.
Last but not least, I think Dover plans to vote on their EAP with the city council this week. so.
So are they shooting for, or are they in the first wave?
I asked their board member yesterday, and he said that they're on the fence.
They're on the fence.
Yeah. They're on the fence. They're tied to their municipal supply. They kind of want to go live at the same time as their municipal accounts perhaps have the opportunity to join CPCNH, and their municipal contract goes out a ways. So it seems like that's one of the things that they're considering. But I didn't get the take it was a given that they're going to go in the spring, but they're still considering it.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't want to be tied to our municipal load because,
No, and we're not. Peter already said that he's signed a contract for the next 3 years.
for 8 cents.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're not going to touch that.
Yeah, and trying to time that and coordinate it seems like that wouldn't be in our best interest as a city.
Yeah, and I'm scratching my head as to why Dover did.
I don't know.
But,
Yeah.
I don't know.
okay, any other business? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you all February 2nd.
Yes. Next week.
So we don't have.
And I'm gonna get a drink.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, so